Wild Guns, originally released on the Super Nintendo, has become one of the most sought-after SNES games for collectors. But it's still a fun game and worth checking out if you're able to get your hands on it. But now you don't have to go hunting for those retro games, as you can play it now on the PS4 with Wild Guns Reloaded. But is this Reloaded remaster of the classic Wild Guns worth checking out? Or is it just a classic game that didn't need to be revived? Wild Guns Reloaded is essentially the classic Wild Guns game from back in the Super Nintendo days, with just two major differences: the ability to play up to 4 players at the same time, as well as 2 new playable characters. Everything about Wild Guns that was great about it in the past is still great here. The action and fast-paced gameplay with your character in the foreground, getting to see their back, and then all the enemies in front of you in the background, having to move a reticle around the screen, quickly jump and dodge your way out of enemy fire, shooting at enemy bullets in order to build up your special meter, and of course trying to take out as much stuff as possible, ranking up your high score, and then getting ready for the boss fight at the end of the timer. The amount of levels and the level designs pretty much are identical to what they used to be. There's 6 main levels, with 1 at the beginning, 1 at the end, and the 4 in the middle being able to be picked at whichever order you would like to complete them in. Each of the levels is broken up into several segments. When you begin a segment, you'll have a timer at the bottom of the screen, and your goal is to survive for as long as that timer is going, and defeat as many enemies as possible while doing so. Once the timer runs out, you'll face the mini-boss. Defeat the mini-boss and move on to the next segment of that level. You usually have 2 segments, and then the final part of the level has you battling that particular stage's boss. To battle all of the robotic cowboys and other enemies coming your way, you have your main weapon that you'll be able to use, a machine gun-like weapon for the main characters, and you have 2 different styles of guns for the new added characters to the game. While you're battling enemies, they will drop items such as bonus points or bombs that you'll be able to grab and then clear out an entire screen or do a lot of damage to certain enemies using these screen-clearing bombs, as well as other guns such as machine guns, shotguns, grenade launchers, and newly added laser. Each of these weapons have a limited amount of ammo, and then you'll go back to your default weapon once it ends up running out. You also have the Lasso that you're able to use, which can really come in handy as you're able to throw it out and it will freeze enemy for a small period of time. Once the enemy is frozen, you can just fire at will in order to take him out, or work on other enemies while that one is frozen. The 2 main characters of Clint and Annie play similar to one another with a machine gun-like fire. The real change comes with the new characters. You have the adorable dog Bullet and the powerhouse Doris. With Bullet, he's accompanied by a robot, which will auto-target enemies within range of his attack. You move the reticle around and then fire, and you'll get to see kind of the range of the automatic shot, and then it will go enemy by enemy, targeting each one and taking them out. With Doris, she's able to throw out grenades, and if you're able to hold down the throw button, you will actually be able to throw out more grenades at one time, up to 3 for her normal attack. Now, each of these characters plays so differently from the original Clint and Annie, it took a bit to get used to. They don't dodge quite as easily and have a few different nuances to them, but it makes for a fun change and feels like a slightly different game by playing as each of them. One cool thing with Doris in particular, she's also able to kind of do a ground pound move in order to kind of get out of the way of things and be able to kind of knock some of the enemies if the ones are up close to her. And while the additions of the new characters, as well as the fact you can play with up to 4 players at the same time, is really cool, the game is still a pretty short experience. There are 3 difficulties, easy, normal, and hard, with less lives at your disposal by going into the other difficulties. The game still is pretty short, though. The 6 levels, especially if you're going through on easy or even on normal, will probably only take you an hour, maybe 2 hours, in order to kind of get through. I also don't like the fact they don't have any kind of save feature whatsoever, so if you're in the middle of playing a game and you need to take a break, or you turn off your system, you won't be able to pick up from where you left off. You'll instead have to start the game over from the beginning. Thankfully, it's not really that long of a game, so getting back to where you were won't probably take you that long. From the technical side of things, everything ran smoothly, no crashing, major glitching of any sort. All that retro action came rushing back to me as I played, and I really had a lot of fun reliving this game for the short amount of time that it ended up lasting. This game is a lot of fun, and if you can get some friends together to play along with you, you're going to have a really good time dodging all tons of bullets, trying to get power-ups, and taking out each of the enemies. The explosions and the different bosses are still as fun to beat up and destroy as they ever were. My biggest gripe with this game, though, is going to come from the price point and the way that they ended up releasing the title. The game is available for $29.99 on the PS4, and it is released physically and digitally, with the physical copy being extremely rare, with them only releasing it on their particular Amazon store, not just on all of Amazon and a few other websites, so it's going to be really hard to get a hold of. The price itself of $30 is way too much for what this game ends up being. Even with the cool extra additions of the new characters and the 4-player multiplayer are not enough to warrant raising the price all the way up to $30 for something that should be around the $10 to $15 mark. And I know some are going to defend the price by either really enjoying the game, which is perfectly fine. If you pay $30 and love every second and don't regret it at all, that is awesome. But I really feel like the publisher is just trying to capitalize on the fact that this game is a really obscure, rare game that goes for hundreds of dollars now if you're trying to get a legitimate, real Super Nintendo cart of it. If this game was half the price that it was, I really wouldn't have a problem recommending it to people. But even with how fun Wild Guns is, the added features aren't worth the price point that they're currently asking for. And then the little bit of icing on the cake is the fact it doesn't even include a full trophy list or a platinum. And there's no reason why they easily couldn't have put a platinum trophy into this title. This is a tough one for me because the game is still a lot of fun. I enjoyed playing it when I rented it years ago, and it's still fun to play now on PS4, and will be even more fun to play with friends, but it's still a really short ride with not a whole lot added into it to warrant its very high price tag. So when I put everything together, I'm going to be giving Wild Guns Reloaded a 5 out of 10. But anyway guys, that's going to wrap up this review. I'd like to thank you for watching, and of course I hope you enjoyed.